Now, last year, I reviewed one of my favorite 15-inch laptops that was geared towards creators. I'm talking about the HP Envy 15. Now, it had a 15.6-inch OLED display option that was absolutely gorgeous. It had a really nice GPU, a discrete GPU, the RTX 3060, and it had an 11th Gen H series processor, so it was really good for the content creator. But I was eagerly anticipating a follow-up here for 2022. Now they moved to a bigger display. It's now 16 inches. They still offer that OLED option, which I have here today. It's a 4K plus display, 3840 by 2400, but there's also an option for a 2K display that has 120 hertz refresh rate. So there's some options when it comes to display. They moved to a 12th Gen Core i9 processor as a top of the line processor, and it retained that RTX 3060 GPU. Let's see if this all comes together to make this the creator's laptop of 2022. Hey everybody, it's Andrew, and this is my review of the HP Envy 17, all new for 2022. Coming up. Now, before we get to the unboxing, I want to let everyone know, in the interest of transparency and full disclosure, I'm not being paid by HP. I'm not being sponsored by HP. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. HP is not getting copy approval. That means they're seeing this video for the first time, just like you. Now, this unit is on loan from HP, and once this review is done, I'll be sending it back. Now, when it comes to pricing, pretty competitive as far as the starting price is concerned. $1,179.99 over at HP.com. That gets you the Core i5 12500H with the Intel Arc graphics, 16-inch, 120 hertz display. Now, you can go up from there. Now, I have the OLED display, and there's one offered over at Micro Center with the same display. It's the Core i7 12700H. I actually have the Core i9. I'm not really sure exactly the exact price of this one just yet, but as soon as I get information and where you can buy it and the exact pricing, I'll let everybody know. But this is pretty competitive when you look at other 16-inch laptops that are geared towards creators in this segment. So pretty good pricing in my opinion. And with the specs and pricing out of the way, let's find out what you get inside the box. Let's open it up. So this is silver. I don't believe it comes in any other colors. I'm not aware of any other colors. I know the traditional silver, and I can feel all 5 pounds of this plus 5 pounds plus. We got some important product information in this, of course, and you get some warranty information right there. And let's see what kind of power brick they give us. And this one is 200 watts. So 200 watts, and it is a barrel pin connection. So of course you're going to need extra wattage for that RTX 3060, and then of course the power cord as well. So we've seen this one before. You know, I think this is pretty typical of HP with their Envy line. Okay, and let's take it out of the plastic again. I feel the heft here. Okay, nice, very premium feeling, very heavy. This thing again over 5 pounds, so you're definitely going to feel it, but premium look to it. It's got Envy branding there, squared off edges. I like the straightforward look. Look at that heat vent on this. Pretty interesting. You can see it there. Okay, folks, let's check out the port selection. On the left side, you get a drop jaw USB-A port. Next to that is a 3.5 millimeter microphone headphone combo jack and a micro SD card reader. Moving over to the right side are 2 USB-C Thunderbolt 4 ports that support display out and data, but they do not support charge on this laptop. In order to charge this laptop, you'll have to use the included 200-watt barrel pin connector AC adapter. You get an HDMI 2.1 port, which is of course always good to see. And then finally a second USB-A port. This time it's not a drop jaw. I prefer this style. And finally your power port to charge this laptop. I would say all in all a decent port selection, although I wish there was full functionality when it comes to those 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports. I would like to be able to charge with USB-C. You don't get that. And I would prefer a full-size SD card reader over the micro SD card reader, especially for content creation. Content creators will definitely need that. But overall, I think this is a pretty decent port selection. So this is my Dell XPS USB-C 130-watt power adapter, and I would have to go to this side, okay? So let's try the first one. So there it is. And that's not charging. Try the second one. And that's not charging. They're not allowing you to charge via USB-C. These are T5. Hopefully these are the only screws. So they're not captive. There we go. Got to be very careful with these screws. Open, hopefully. So that's 3 there. Praying that there's no screws on these strips because I can never put the strip back on. So it looks like there's 5 visible screws so far. We'll know pretty much right away. Okay, that's a good sign. Guess what? There's no screws underneath the strips. Thank God. And there's good news when it comes to user upgradability. As you can see, there are 2 SODIMM slots that are accessible to the user to upgrade the RAM. Now you can configure this unit with up to 32 gigabytes of DDR5 4800 RAM, and it's also running in dual channel mode. Good to see that. And I'm happy to report that it's also the faster Rank 8 RAM that we'd like to see. And there's even more good news when it comes to the fact that this has 2 SSD slots, both user upgradable. Now, my review unit has one of the slots taken up by a 2 terabyte SSD drive, and as you can see from these reads and writes, super fast in terms of those reads and writes, certainly Gen 4 speeds that we'd like to see here in 2022. Good job on that front. And when it comes to the wireless, this has Wi-Fi 6E along with Bluetooth 5.2. And the good news is that's also slotted in, so if you want to change it out down the road, you have that option. Now, as far as the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth, both working really well. No issues on either front. Okay, let's talk about the display. And HP now moved to a 16-inch display. That's up from the 15.6-inch, of course, from the HP Envy 15 from last year. Now, this one that HP sent over is a UHD Plus OLED display. That's a resolution of 3840 by 2400. This is also a 16:10 aspect ratio, which means you'll do less scrolling when it comes to web browsing. You'll see more on the display. This is also an HDR Dolby Vision display that can get as bright as 500 nits when it comes to high dynamic range content and 400 nits when it comes to standard definition content. Now, I measured 388 nits, not quite the 400 claimed, but it was definitely bright enough for what you need to do with it in both indoor and even outdoor use. Although it is a glossy display, you will notice some glare and reflections depending on your lighting conditions. Now, this is also a touch display with a very responsive touch layer. Navigating through the OS with your finger has been great, having no issues, and it's a great convenience factor, at least in my opinion. This has all the hallmarks of an OLED display, the really deep blacks, the super vibrant colors, the really deep contrast, and it also has really good coverage of the color gamut. So if you're a content creator, using this for Lightroom, Photoshop, video editing, color grading has been magnificent, and it also is a very color accurate display with a 0.74 Delta E score. Remember, anything below 2 means it's color accurate. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a Dolby Vision HDR 500 display. Watching high dynamic range content in Netflix, Amazon, and YouTube has been excellent on this panel. Now, this is 60 hertz in terms of the refresh rate, but for those wanting a higher refresh rate, especially for those that want to do some gaming, there is another panel that HP offers that's also a 16-inch display, but that's an IPS display with a resolution of 2560 by 1600. And that one has 120 hertz refresh rate, even more fluid experience, even more smooth when it comes to scrolling. So that's going to be a nice choice for gamers and those that want that higher refresh rate. That's a good option to go with. But if you're a content creator like I am, I would stick with this OLED display. It has the higher resolution 4K+. It also has better coverage of the color gamut and will be more color accurate. So this is the HP TrueVision camera. It's a really nice camera. It's actually shooting right now 1440p video. What do you think about the video quality? What do you think about the audio quality? Now, HP has a separate app that allows you to change the background, especially when you're in different lighting conditions and so forth. You can change the different backgrounds and so forth. So that's one way to go on this. And then, of course, to have the auto frame, you could do just your head, you could do your shoulders and body,
and head. So there's all sorts of control at the user's fingertip when it comes to video conferencing. Again, what do you think about the video quality? What do you think about the audio quality? Now, this is an IR camera, so that means you can log in with face recognition with Windows Hello. There is no more fingerprint scanner on this keyboard. Last year they had it. They did away with it. So now you got to rely on the Windows Hello camera for logging in, again, with face recognition. Now, as far as the physical key, there is one on the keyboard that allows you to turn off the webcam for more security and privacy. I like a lot of the features here. I think they're come in handy, and I think they have a lot of usefulness. But I'm curious to know what you think. Let me know in that comment section below.
And for those wondering, yes, you can open the lid with one finger. Now, one little nitpick I have is I notice a lot of screen wobble on this laptop. I think the hinges could be a little bit tighter, so when you're typing, that screen wobble can get a little bit annoying, something that I think HP should remedy in the next version. But one thing I'm absolutely loving, it's the keyboard. It's really good. I liked it last year. I like it this year. Really good tactility, really good key travel. You never feel like your fingers are going to bottom out, and I found it very comfortable to type on for extended periods of typing. Now, I love the fact that it does have a multi-stage backlight, but one thing to note, the keys light up white against these silver keys, sometimes hard to see the contrast between the two. It's a little nitpick, but something I'm not crazy about. And it has a glass precision touchpad that I thought was very responsive when it comes to scrolling, and all the gestures work as you'd expect. Good job on that front as well. All right, let's talk performance, and this thing is loaded. It's got the Core i9-12900H. That is a 14-core processor, 8 efficiency cores and 6 performance cores, and as you can see, year over year, big improvements in both the single-core and multi-core performance over the HP NV15 from last year. This can pretty much handle everything you throw at it, even 4K video editing, 3D rendering, it all worked well, and that's thanks to the RTX 3060 discrete GPU, which has a TGP of 95 watts. And when I ran the Cinebench R23, a heavy sustained workload test, which will account for any thermal throttling, it did really well, topping the single core and coming in second in the multi-core performance of that test. Very impressive performance indeed. Heavy sustained workloads really worked well on this NV16. And when it comes to gaming, well, you can definitely game on this in certain settings. You'll get really playable frame rates on some of the more popular titles. That's thanks to the RTX 3060 with a TGP of 95 watts. So definitely playable in terms of these frame rates. So when you're not creating, when you're not working on this laptop, playing some games on your off time is definitely doable. Now, one thing you'll notice is when you take the cover off is the vapor chamber cooling, and that certainly helps with the thermals on this laptop. Now, when I ran the Prime 95 stress test to see if this will thermal throttle under heavy load, I noticed it would reach a core temperature of 91 degrees Celsius and then power throttle it down to around 60-61 degrees Celsius, certainly cooling it off, reducing the performance, although the overall performance, as indicated by the results I received in the Cinebench R23, show that this has excellent performance despite the fact that it does power throttle to keep it cooler. Now, the fans will kick in under heavy load, and you will notice them, but never going above about 41, 42 decibels, which means it's not too loud, not too distracting, and that's good, especially when you're trying to get work done. And I thought they did a good job with the surface temperatures never getting overly hot. As you can see, a hot spot above the keyboard below the display, and on the underside, as you see here, but relatively cool overall. Good job in terms of the surface temperatures. Okay, let's talk about battery life. Now, this has an 83 watt-hour battery, and it did 5 hours and 55 minutes on my continuous web surfing test over Wi-Fi at 150 nits. What does that translate into real-world mixed usage? This is at best a 4 to 5 hour device. Now, keep in mind, OLED display, 4K plus, high resolution, that'll eat up more pixels, that'll, of course, eat more battery life. And it was never great battery life last year, and it's not great this year, so I'm not really too worried about it. And most content creators that are looking at this laptop would, for the most part, keep it at a desk most of the time. Now, if you do need to plug in the supplied 200 watt power adapter that uses that barrel pin connection, takes an hour and 45 minutes to give you a full charge. Not too bad. Now, I'm absolutely loving the audio thanks to the quad speakers that this sports. They're Bang & Olufsen tuned, and it has HP Audio Boost. Now, it sounds really good in terms of the volume, the mids, and the bass. Now, to give it a listen, let's check out Epidemic Sound, and if you want to save 10% on Epidemic Sound, see the link in the description below. Now, let's give this a listen. Okay, let's bring it all home. What do I think about the HP Envy 16 here for 2022? And I gotta say, impressive performance here. I like the move to the 16-inch display over the 15.6-inch from last year. It now comes with a 16:10 aspect ratio. I like the stunning OLED option in terms of the display, the deep blacks, the super vibrant colors, the really high contrast, it's all there. I like the really good port selection on this laptop. I like the great performance out of that Core i9 12900H. That's 8 efficiency cores and 6 performance cores. It's really good. It's also a 45-watt CPU, and it's got upgradable SSDs, RAM, and Wi-Fi. You gotta love that. Now, I love the improved webcam here. It's now a 5-megapixel IR camera that supports Windows Hello, crystal clear array mics. It sounds really good for your Zoom calls and all your work from home needs. It's got great quad speakers that are Bang & Olufsen tuned. It also has a webcam shutter key, allowing you to get more security and privacy. The negatives here, you cannot charge via the Type-C ports. Unfortunately, that was the same issue last year, same issue this year. There's some flex in the chassis. That's obviously not what we like to see, and especially on an all-metal design. And there is some screen wobble on that display. So when you're typing, it can get a little bit annoying. There's a lot to like here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to give the HP Envy 16 a score of 90%, definitely making it worth your money.
So what do you think about this bad boy, the Envy 16? And as I mentioned, all metal design. It's that traditional silver. We've seen it before. Really nice build quality. Again, there's no plastic really on this. It's all metal. It's a solid sheet of metal here. You will notice a little flex in the chassis, but not too bad. Now, the port selection's pretty good, although those 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports do not support charge. I wish it did. But other than that, it's been pretty good. And the other thing I mentioned also in the video, I'd like to see a full-size SD card reader as opposed to a micro SD card reader. We don't get that here. Again, geared towards creators. So the thing that's going to be standing out with this, of course, is the move to a bigger 16-inch display. It's now 16:10, 3840 by 2400. Of course, that is a 4K plus or UHD plus resolution. Great coverage of the color gamut. It's very bright. It's sharp. It's everything you'd expect from an OLED display. And it's also a touch display, and it worked out pretty well. Processor, it's a Core i9 12900H. That is, of course, a high-end processor. The Core i9, of course, gives you some pretty nice performance, although I think most people will be perfectly fine with a Core i7 that this is offered in as well. Pretty impressive, especially if you are a content creator that does video editing, Lightroom, Photoshop. The numbers were there as indicated in the video. Now, as far as pricing is concerned, last year, I think it was a steal, especially considering what you got for the price. Really high-end specs, great performance, at again, a very reasonable price. This year, I would say it's a little bit more fair in terms of the price, not great in terms of like last year, but it's still a great value in the sense that you're getting a lot for the money here in 2022. But I'm curious to know what you think. Let me know in the comment section below. What do you think about the Envy 16? Do you like the move to the bigger display? Do you like the fact they stuck with the RTX 3060, a pretty nice GPU? And of course, the move to the 12th gen processors. I'm curious to know what you think. Let me know in that comment section below. So please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share this video. Don't forget to leave a comment in that comment section below. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's a device or something out there you think I should review. I'll do my best to try to make that happen. Don't forget to check me out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, my website, amdtechreviews.com. So until next time, this is Andrew from AMD Tech. See ya.